Hey, this is Rama from Creations Landscape Designs. In this video, I wanted to share with you 5 sustainability features that I would recommend you consider if you're renovating your garden. But before I do that, I make videos about drought-tolerant plants, California native plants, sustainability, and anything and everything in between. So if you'd like to get more of that content in your feed, then hit the red subscribe button. All right, let's do this. The first sustainability feature that I would recommend you consider, which will be the least expensive if you're on a budget, is called a berm. As you see here, the tree is planted inside a mound. It is essentially kind of taking a bunch of soil and just mounding it up, in this case, to create visual interest. And there's some decor with the moose or whatever that is. This is also another example of what you can do with a berm, is create kind of a rock garden slash berm. This just happens to be a collection of rocks that are used as mulch in this center area, and the center of it is mounded, which creates a berm, and there's a plant that gets 6x6, which is a Ceanothus concha, planted in the center of the mound, which will look visually appealing. The second sustainability feature that I suggest is called a dry riverbed. The purpose of the dry riverbed, other than to be visually something nice to look at, is to mitigate and as much as possible eliminate water runoff during rain. So what happens is the water gets collected in the areas where there are rocks and it percolates into the soil as opposed to running off. Now you can do it with small sized rocks. In this case, it's done with different sizes of rocks, different colors. It really doesn't matter. It depends on what your personal preference is. But again, it looks visually nice. This happens to be in the city of Orange. And as you can see, far in the distance, there's a pot. Part of the pot had broken. So we put the pot down to make it look like rocks were coming from the pot. Now, this happens to be in Huntington Beach, and I think this looks fabulous. The dry riverbed and the different rocks amongst all these plants that are all native to California, with the exception of the existing tree. It looks great. It also provides a beneficial habitat for the local wildlife to be able to enjoy. And it's visually really beautiful looking. Now, what I would recommend as a third sustainability feature is a rain barrel. In this case, in Mission Viejo, the rain barrels were given for free by the homeowners water district many years ago. It's connected to the gutter. One then is connected to the other. There's a spigot at the bottom where the rainwater is used to water plants or what have you. And this now is another picture of that same garden. You can still see the rain barrel in the distance, but it's cleverly hidden amongst the plant material. But again, it still is functional, is not obtrusive. Now, if you have the space and you want to be a little extreme, this is another option. These are rain tanks by a company called Bushman. In this case, this rain tank is connected to the irrigation system. So when the water runs out, then that's when the irrigation system begins using city water. But as long as there's water in these tanks, there's no need to use city water because there's sufficient water here. The fourth sustainability feature is called a rock garden. Now, what this means is you take an area of your yard, preferably not the whole entire yard, but a small or some size area of your yard, and instead of using wood chips, you use rocks. You do create maybe a little bit of a divot, or you could create a little bit of a mound, but however, the premise is that again, the rocks, much like any other surface will allow the water to percolate through. And it's also visually appealing as something else to look at. As you can see in this garden, the entire planting areas were mulched using rock, which was a look that the client really preferred. And it looks nice. It will function much like mulch will. Lastly, to consider a vegetative swale as a sustainability feature in your garden. This is in the city of Tustin. The rainwater here will percolate through the soil. And what's nice is you can have a planted vegetative swale. And what you would do is you would put plants within the swale that might need slightly more water than the rest of the plant material. This is another view of the garden. Again, it allows for rainwater to be collected on site, percolate through the soil, not run off into wherever, not run off into the street basically, and to be able to utilize the rainwater that Mother Nature gives you to benefit your garden.